Friends, have you ever felt that knot of fear in your stomach? That cold dread that creeps in when you realize the world might see you differently. Not for who you are inside, but for the color of your skin? That's the fear that haunts so many. A fear that, for Lieutenant Colonel Elijah Vance, a decorated Army officer, tragically became a brutal reality. Imagine this. A quiet evening, the kind where the day's noise fades into a peaceful hush. Elijah, a man who had served his country with honor, a man whose dedication had earned him the rank of lieutenant colonel, was driving home. His mind might have been on his family, a warm meal, the simple comforts of home after years of service. But fate, cruel and unjust, had a different path laid out for him. A sudden flashing of lights in his rear-view mirror shattered the calm. A police car, its presence immediately injecting a dose of unease. For many in the black community, this isn't just a routine stop. It's a moment of heightened anxiety, a moment where ingrained fears surface. The fear being judged, not for any wrongdoing, but for the color of their skin. This is a narrative that pulses through our communities, a narrative born from too many painful experiences. Officer Kevin Miller approached Elijah's vehicle. What transpired in those initial moments remains shrouded in conflicting accounts, a fog of accusation and denial. But what we know is that a confrontation occurred, a confrontation that escalated with terrifying speed. Witnesses later recounted hearing raised voices, a moment of confusion, and then the deafening crack of gunfire. Elijah Vance, a man who had faced down enemies in foreign lands, lay bleeding on American soil, shot by a police officer. The news ripped through the black community like a wildfire. The immediate reaction, raw and visceral, was one of outrage. He was targeted because he was black, became the anguished cry. The image of a decorated black man, a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, gunned down by a white police officer, ignited a firestorm of grief and anger. The question echoed across social media, in living rooms and on the streets. Would this have happened if Elijah Vance had been white? The Pentagon, too, reacted with swift and unequivocal condemnation. Here was one of their own, a high-ranking officer, a symbol of their commitment and service, cut down in such a brutal manner. Their anger wasn't just about the loss of a soldier. It was about the violation of trust, the shattering of the expectation that those sworn to protect would see beyond race. The local authorities launched an investigation, a process that for many felt agonizingly slow, a stark contrast to the immediate and irreversible finality of Elijah's death. The black community watched with a weary skepticism, the weight of history pressing down on their hopes for justice. How many times had they seen similar incidents, investigations that dragged on, only to end in acquittals or lenient sentences? The fear that Elijah would become another statistic, another name added to a long list of black lives lost to police violence, was palpable. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Protests erupted, peaceful at first, then fueled by the frustration of unanswered questions and the pain of a life unjustly taken. The name Elijah Vance became a rallying cry, a symbol of the systemic issues that plagued the relationship between law enforcement and the black community. Then came the stunning announcement. Officer Kevin Miller was arrested. The evidence, though fiercely contested by his defense, painted a grim picture. Witnesses came forward, their accounts adding layers of complexity and horror to the narrative. Some spoke of Miller's aggressive demeanor from the outset, an assumption of guilt before any questions were asked. Others described Elijah's calm but firm responses, his attempts to de-escalate the situation. The trial that followed was a spectacle, a microcosm of America's racial tensions laid bare for the world to see. The prosecution argued that Elijah's race played a significant role in Miller's actions, highlighting the ingrained biases that can lead to tragic outcomes. The defense countered, painting a picture of a panicked officer reacting to a perceived threat, insisting that race was not a factor. The jury, a diverse group tasked with the heavy responsibility of delivering justice, deliberated for days. The tension in the courtroom was thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, the verdict came. Guilty, not of manslaughter, not of a lesser charge, but a murder. A collective gasp swept through the courtroom, a mixture of shock, relief, and a profound sadness. But the story didn't end there. The sentencing phase brought further drama. The prosecution argued for the maximum penalty, emphasizing the gravity of taking a life and the racial implications of the crime. The defense pleaded for leniency, citing Miller's service record and the argument that he never intended for such a tragedy to occur. In a move that sent shockwaves through the nation, the judge handed down the maximum sentence, execution. The decision was met with jubilation by many in the black community, who saw it as a rare instance of accountability. But it also sparked intense debate. Did one life taken unjustly justify another? Was this justice, or simply retribution? The execution of Kevin Miller brought a strange sense of closure, but it didn't erase the pain or the underlying issues. The anger in the black community remained, a smoldering resentment fueled by generations of injustice. The Pentagon's anger, though perhaps somewhat assuaged by the verdict, still echoed the profound loss of a dedicated officer. The story of Lieutenant Colonel Elijah Vance is a stark reminder of the deep-seated fears and suspicions that exist within our society. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about race, power, and the potential for bias to lead to devastating consequences. It highlights the black narrative, the lived experience of being judged and treated differently simply because of the color of one's skin. People saw Elijah as black, and in that moment, some believe that's all that mattered to the officer who pulled the trigger. What are your thoughts on this tragic story? Does the execution of the officer bring true justice? Where are you watching from? Share your perspectives in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit the like button. This story, the story of Elijah Vance, is for all of us who believe in a world where justice and equality prevail, regardless of skin color. The twists and turns in this case revealed not just the tragic loss of a life, but also the deep-seated anxieties that plague a community. The initial fear that Elijah's death would be dismissed, the hope ignited by the arrest, the tension of the trial, and the ultimate shock of the execution. Each stage amplified the emotional weight of the story. The truth unfolded in layers, revealing the raw pain of a community that has long yearned for equal justice. The moral of Elijah Vance's story is a heavy one. We must confront the biases that lurk within our systems and within ourselves. We must strive for a world where the color of one's skin does not determine their fate, where justice is blind, and where every life is valued equally. Let Elijah's memory serve as a call to action, a reminder that the fight for equality is far from over.